internet librarians. Yes, I am filming a real video, not just uploading a short, but I do want to say thank you to everyone who has been watching because they've been doing really well and I've loved reading your comments. I wanted to do a video about books that literally anyone can try and that I will recommend to anyone regardless of the genres that they normally read. These are some stories that I think translate really well to so many different people and have a really high satisfaction rate from the people I know that have read them. So I wanted to share them with you in case you wanted a book to start for the new year, to try something new, or to try something that there's quite a high chance that you'll enjoy. I've chosen 5 books to get started with, which isn't a huge amount, but I think there'll be something for everyone here. Starting with a book that you've probably already heard of, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. This book has always been popular and for good reasons. It's such a fun world, it's not too hard to get into. Tolkien originally wrote this for his children, so whilst anyone can read it, it's not the most complicated writing and the most complicated plot. Another thing that I think is really good for lots of different people is that often spicy scenes and romance put people off with fantasy, and this doesn't have any, so you don't need to worry about coming across that and it putting you off because it's just not a part of this book and it doesn't feel like it loses anything for not having it. It's based on a story around Bilbo Baggins, a hobbit living a comfortable life until one day a wizard and a group of dwarfs show up to whisk him away on a massive adventure. There's treasure hunting, dragons, lots of other monsters, elves. This world is complete and full and there's so many different elements to this story that so many people gel with. This is the 70th anniversary edition and I think it's just so lovely. I can't stop looking at it. It comes in this lovely case and yeah, it's very lovely. The next book on my list is more of an author recommendation, but I do have an example that I've included for you, and that is Neil Gaiman with his example of Stardust. I will say that whilst this is accessible to lots of different people, unlike the film, it's not a children's book. There are some more mature themes and at times it gets a little bit scary and gory, so this is not one for younger readers. For this book in particular, if you're thinking, well, I've seen the Stardust movie, this is very different. I love the Stardust film and I love this book for separate reasons because even though the stories are roughly the same plot, the storytelling and the events kind of unfold very differently. It's about a young man, Tristan Thorne, who loses his heart to the beautiful Victoria and vows that if she agrees to love him, he will bring her back the shooting star that they saw fly across the sky. This is quite a strange and dangerous world and there's a bit of humour which I think a lot of people like. Neil Gaiman has this brilliant way of telling stories and myths in quite a funny but also very knowledgeable way. I also regularly recommend Neverwhere and Norse Gods because they're both brilliant books and Neil Gaiman has clearly so much knowledge about storytelling and mythology and I think a lot of people will really enjoy that. The next book is a bit genre bending and it is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I don't want to tell you too much about this because I tell everyone that I recommend it to the best thing you can do with this story is to go into it almost completely blind. I will tell you that it is about a man called Piranesi who finds himself in a mysterious endless building of halls and vestibules and tides and birds with only the other for company. One day things start changing and he realises the world might not be exactly what he once thought. A lot of you may know that I'm not the biggest book annotator, but I did actually tab a whole page in here. I believe it's the description of different statues that he sees and it's just some of the most lovely writing I have ever read, so I had to remember it. The good thing about this book is that it's only 250 pages. I read it in one go, just like that. I've also reread it 3 times even though I know the huge twist. There is a huge twist. In fact, there are lots of twists. More than anything, it's kind of a mystery book. It's very spellbinding and puzzle-like, and alongside Piranesi, the readers also kind of have to work out what's going on. Definitely don't get too bogged down by the idea of fantasy because it's not really a massive part of this book. It's also one of my favourite hardcovers that I own. It's got these gorgeous shell end papers and under the dust jacket it has Piranesi wrapped around on these kind of bronze pillars and oh, I just love it. Next, we're going on to more crime books, which I will admit is not a genre I'm massively interested in. But I think the fact that these stories are so well told and funny and have such complex, relatable characters, it doesn't matter if you're normally a crime fan because it's not the main takeaway from the book. So my next recommendation is the Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman. I've just finished reading the fourth one of these and they really do just keep getting better. I don't understand how they don't lose momentum. They're just so brilliant. This is basically a load of retirees at an old people's community who have a lot of interest in cold cases, and one of them is an ex-spy, and she brings them all together to have something to do and to solve some crimes. They really are no nonsense, and people keep telling them, you can't do this, and they go, we can do this and we're going to. Joyce especially has my heart. I love her. She has whole chapters written from her perspective, almost like a diary, and I think they're some of the funniest in the book series. They're very British and they're very clever, and I can definitely see why so many copies of these have been sold. Although the plot is important and you do want to work it out before the end of the book, it's definitely the characters that lead this story, and by the end you almost don't mind if you haven't worked out the answer. The other great thing is that as the books progress, the stakes up and these crimes get a little bit insane, but it never feels insane. It just feels right for these characters. The last book I want to show you, I'm sorry I only have the third copy in physical format, but that's the one I'm going to show you. It is Cara Hunter's DI4 Series. You may have recently seen my videos on social media of Cara Hunter's Murder in the Family because crazily, one of them has 1.5 million views. But this is her continued crime series, which have a load of different characters, and it's not to do with Murder in the Family at all. That being said, there are still a load of elements included in Murder of the Family that are still in these books, such as newspaper articles as you go along, phone calls and interviews, that kind of thing. Really involved reading these books. And whilst Murder in the Family is more, can you solve the murder? This is kind of, you can solve the murder if you'd like to. These books have really affected me. The second book especially made me really quite emotional out of nowhere. The first book is about a little girl that goes missing. The second is about a family murdered in a big house fire. And this one is about a pattern of teenage girls getting abducted. The reason that I don't love crime books and thrillers is because the detectives that are solving the cases are often really one-dimensional. Not with these books. All of the detectives and people working on the case have really interesting backstories and interactions between each other. The main character, Adam Fawley himself, lost his son, and him and his wife are dealing with the after effects of that. There's always a tiny little bit of romance, but not so much that it ever takes over, which I'm really glad about because I don't ever think that romance should be a massive part of crime and thrillers. And I do like the amount of red herrings that are thrown into these books because I'm normally okay at solving books, and normally crime and thriller books, you can kind of guess the ending quite early on, but not with these. I'm always thrown massively through hoops and I'm completely wrong about the outcome. I can't wait to get to the next two books in the series. I think there's The Whole Truth next, and then I think Hope to Die is the last one, so I'm really excited for those. They're quick and easy reads. You can read them in the summer, you can read them in the winter. I think the one in the fire was themed at Christmas, but that doesn't take over too much. But they're just really good, I can't put this down kind of books. And I think that's what we all want, a book that we can just throw ourselves into. So yes, that is the end of my little recommendation video. Please let me know in the comments if you yourself have read any of these. I'd love to know what you thought of them, or if you yourself have recommended them to anyone else. And I'd also love to know if you have a book that you always recommend to people no matter what, because you think everyone is going to love it. Because then I'll add it to my own list. The goal for the year is to be posting more consistently, but remember you can still check me out on Instagram and TikTok, both at Exlibrisjessica. But I do promise that I will upload to YouTube more regularly because I actually really enjoy filming longer videos like this, and you all seem to like it too, which I love. I hope everyone has a great week and reads some amazing books that they absolutely love, and I will see you again soon.